What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Imperfect Action Show. You know what it is, man. This is episode 49, and today's date is April 28th. So appropriately on April 29th will be episode 15, and that's tomorrow. It's going to go crazy. But today's episode, we're going to be talking about how to make $1 million in 90 days. And my guest coming on is someone that's going to be breaking down the sauce and giving you guys a lot of the gems. So before she taps on, what I wanted to do is just talk about a couple of things that happened this past week, and then also give you guys a little bit of perspective on how you can literally start shaping and making some moves. So first thing I would like to do is let me see. Okay, boom. Oh, there goes Dr. Alexa right there. All right.
Hello.
Here we go. What up?
What is up, my friend?
How you doing?
I am hanging in there, man. Just hanging in there. It's been a lovely week here in Charleston. I'm in Charleston, so it's been.
You're in Charleston, okay.
Yeah. So it's been real nice. I'm enjoying the nice weather. I was in New York and it was freezing, so.
Okay, all right. Well, I was just about to talk about you, so since you just jumped on, I guess I could talk about you.
All right, there you go. I'm not that cool, but go ahead.
Got you guys. So look, Imperfect Action episode 49. Today's guest is someone that I've been following on the gram for a little bit, and then I actually had one of my VAs. My VAs was just doing their VA thing, and they actually sent her a message, and she responded. She was like, I think the message was something like, what do you feel like you need to get to that next level? And then she responded. She was like, well, let me know how much you make. And then maybe it was something like, let me know how much you make. And then maybe, maybe you can help me with that, which I thought was great, right? So I actually took a second, put that in perspective. And I was just honest. I told her how much I was making. I told her where I was at. And then I told her I would love for her to come on the Imperfect Action Show and share a lot of gems. So today we got an 8-figure earner, owner of, Tank Coaching, Think Fuel Media. In today's episode, she's going to talk about how to make $1 million in 90 days or less and the motivation behind that. So, Dr. Dag, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. What an intro. My boy Brandon, I'm gonna have you do my intro every time. Even when I'm on other podcasts, I'm gonna have you come in and do my intro.
Listen, I can either do it if you want. I'll just record something. I'll send it to you, and you just have to run it. You know what I'm saying?
Just have you.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. That's pretty awesome. But yeah, thank you. It's building businesses it's scary, right? You look at the statistics, and the reality is 2% of people succeed over 10 years, right? And I could go further into that, but if you really break it down, 80% fail in the first 5 years. And a lot of times there's a lot of different reasons, but the majority of what I find, and I'm sure you find as well in your line of work, is skills. It's literally just skills, because going from a 9-to-5 to running a business, 2 totally different skills. In 9-to-5, you're a technician. You have a specific skill set that you're really good at. And that's the skill set that you flourish in your 9-to-5. When you become a business owner, you've got to learn how to market. You've got to learn how to sell. You've got to learn how to run a business. And these are skills, to be quite honest. And I worked in higher education after my 4th exit in 2014, kind of went in to get a PhD to teach and ended up being pulled in by the president. She's like, why do I have your level of caliber of somebody as a professor? Like, come help me on the operations side. And I ended up actually following her around and building marketing teams for 4 local nonprofits in the New York area for about 6 years. And that was fun. But then ended up going back into private equity and then entered back into entrepreneurship. Because I missed it so much. But one of the things that, even teaching in higher ed, they don't teach you the actual skill sets that you need to run a business. They teach you the skill sets in how to work a 9-to-5. And they're 2 totally different things. Very different.
Definitely. I would say too, I think what people tend to fall in the trap of is like, they just kind of look to get the job, right? And they don't really look to like perfect certain skills. I know there was some clients I was talking to earlier this week, and they were talking about transitioning, and I was like, okay, well, what skills do you want to focus on? Right. So we was kind of going down like some high value skills that they can, learn, and then they can package that up, and then they can sell that for a higher ticket price for a premium price. And there's a lot of things that we can learn to solve problems, and then that you could use to actually, sell to other people and charge them a premium, which will help you scale to a higher number. But I think a lot of people just kind of get into the feeling like they just are workers, right? They're not really transition. They can't get around that mindset to kind of transition to entrepreneurship, or what that looks like. How was that for you? Like, when did
I
you
mean,
start to get on this journey of doing what you've been doing?
oh, geez, we're gonna go way, 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 way
You got to
back,
go way
Brendan.
back because I wanted to know the story before we
I
start.
know I look like a little baby, but I've actually been in the industry 17 years.
Yeah,
So basically, I'll give you the 30-second version of it. My
that's all we
family's
need.
from
We
Cuba.
only got 30 minutes. That's all we need.
Yeah, 30 seconds. Here you go. My family's from Cuba. They came over to America. They couldn't speak English. They need to make money. So naturally, they all started businesses. So I grew up with entrepreneurship. I mean, I'd be at the dinner table and my father would come to me and say, "Hey, I have this problem. How would you fix it?" I mean, the guy was running manufacturing plants worldwide. Like, why are you asking an 8-year-old that? But that's literally what our dinner table discussion was. Or, my mother would come home and say, "Hey, I have this employee issue. What would you do? Here's what I would do." And so our dinner table conversation was always about problem solving, because that's what we are as entrepreneurs. The number one thing that you do is problem solve, right? So, naturally at 8, I started my first business. It was an ice cream business. I made like hundreds of dollars a week as like an 8-year-old. It was a lot, right? And then at age 12, I figured out a strategy to basically buy all the popular books in the bookstore and then resell them for double the price, because all the kids wanted the popular books. And I used to get in so much trouble, Brendan. I used to get called to the principal's office. I was like, why? I bought the books and they wanted them, so I resold them. Like, what's the problem with that? But anyway. So I've always been into entrepreneurship, and I started my first business at 18, had no idea, Brendan. I literally put an ad on Craigslist and was like, I'll build your website for $300. Swear to God, I wish I saved that ad. And I did my first website for a lady. Her name was Valerie Lynch out of Peekskill, New York. And she let me do her website for $300. And honestly, I look back now and it was awful. It was so bad, but she loved working with me, ended up referring me to all her friends. And next thing I know, I started building a business to the point where I ended up actually bringing in a partner, because I was getting two partners actually, started getting so busy. And I just started to really work on my craft. Going from 0 to 5 is figuring out what your offer is. Going 5 to 6 is really honing in on your craft, right? So I really just worked on getting better and better and better at my craft, which was app and website development. And it just started to expand from there, and I started networking, doing really good work. Building a business there's 3 main things. It's simple. We don't have to complicate things, everyone. It's so simple. You have to land clients, you have to deliver results, and you have to retain long-term relationships. That's all it is. If you could do those 3 things, what are you going to get? You're going to make an impact, you're going to make a lot of money, and you're going to create financial freedom. But you need to do those 3 things in order to do that first, right? There's the 3 legs of the stool, I call it.
Yeah, but first of all, I would like to say I like how your parents normalize those conversations at the dinner table. I think that in itself is already something that's going to start setting people up for success, right? Having those normalized 6, 7, 8 figure conversation, normalized problem solving and collaboration type of conversations. So I think that already kind of gets your mind going where it needs to go. And then different transitions of like how you were already in entrepreneurship as a young person are incredible. But yeah, those 3 legs of a stool: clients, landing clients, delivering results, and also retaining those relationships. I mean, when you break it down like that, it definitely sounds very simple and very doable. But I know a lot of us do kind of like make it bigger and more difficult than what it needs to be. But when you break it down, it definitely it sounds very digestible and easy. It's kind of like when I say like with marketing, right? It's really just like relationship development, relationship nurturing, and then just having a clear call to action. Like that's really marketing. Like that's
Yeah.
literally all. That's literally all it is.
I think in landing clients, there's 4 legs there, right? It's, you got to have an audience, build your
Yep.
audience. You've got to be able to fill your funnel, because having an audience means nothing if you're not collecting their information, right? And you got to market to them. You've got to build your authority. and you've got to master sales. And sales mastery is probably one of the most important things you could do as a business owner or a person. I mean, think about everything in your life as sales. You go to the restaurant, you go out to eat, and you're convincing your partner to go where you want to go. That's sales, right? You're convincing your kid to take a bath. That's sales, right? Everything in your life is literally sales. So I think sales is honestly one of the most important skills a business owner can have. And I actually had a call today and somebody was like, oh, I suck at sales. I'm just going to hire someone. I go, whoa, whoa, whoa. I go, let me explain something to you. If you want to be a CEO, your number one job is sales. Yeah. That's it. And you have to understand that I suck at sales, Brendan. Like, that is not my expertise, but I worked hard to master it so that I can be at least good enough to get by, because you have to. You have to be able to do that. You have to be able to articulate your offer. You have to be able to understand objections, because if you can't handle objections in the sales process, how are you going to handle objections during the onboarding process and through the fulfillment process? It's the same thing. Sales happens the whole pipeline, not just to get clients in the door.
I think you're making that very clear, because I think when people look at sales, they're literally looking at it transactional based. They're not really looking at it as like continuing to problem solve along the way. So like if you're throwing an offer out there and there's an objection, well, you're really just problem solving around that objection. And the more times you have those type of conversations, you're going to get more comfortable. There's certain things you're going to hear, and those things are going to be like the majority of the stuff that commonly come up as objections for clients. So you're going to know how to handle those things. It's just going to get easier and easier for you when you start to have more reps. So before we start getting into the spicy talk, $1 million in 90 days talk, we do have a question from the community. This one's coming from Al. How do you manage and navigate through personal and business related challenges on a road to a successful entrepreneurship business?
That's a great question. I mean, the first thing is, no matter who you are, I don't care if you're at 0 figures, 4 figures, 5 figures, 6 figures, 7 figures, 8 figures, it doesn't matter who you are. You're always going to have personal challenges that come up in your life. And, here's the reality, right? Business doesn't stop. And I know that sounds a little, we talk about spicy. Thanks, Brendan. But I think that the truth is that you're always going to have problems in your life, always. And the reality is business doesn't stop. You don't work, you don't get paid most of the time. Now, granted, if you get to the point where you're at an 8-figure, 9-figure level, you probably have a team that can handle things, but it does not stop. And so you have to learn how to juggle both and separate the two. Like my father died in December. I couldn't not work. I mean, I took 2 weeks off and I had my team run things, but I had to jump right back in and get my mindset right. And I wasn't right for at least 90 days. But what I did is I spoke to somebody. I'm not afraid to say I had people to talk to confide in, to get through it, because you have to. You can't bury what's happening in your head. You have to talk about it. And the other thing is having a community. Like, we have built such an amazing community of like-minded entrepreneurs, and they help me get through it. And that's important, to have people behind you to support you and to be there for you. But the first thing is first, sometimes in our coaching program, I have people that are like, oh, can I pause? Can I do this? And I'm like, I have this going on. I have that going on. It's just excuses. And the reality is business does not stop. If you really want to run a business, you got to keep moving. And it's the unfortunate part of being an entrepreneur. You're not, collecting a 9-to-5 where you can go on leave for a couple months. If you don't work, you don't get paid, right? So it definitely is a challenge, but it's something that's so important. Mindset is one of the biggest reasons: the lack of confidence, the lack of drive, the lack of, understanding that things are going to go wrong. Clients are going to get pissed off. You're going to have people that say, yeah, I'm in, and then don't pay you. You're going to have people that screw you over. Like, it's just the reality of business. And it doesn't mean you can't have feelings about it. I have feelings all the time. I'm Cuban, so of course I have a lot of emotions. But I've learned how to handle them, and I've learned when I need to talk to somebody about that. So that's the most important thing. Don't ignore it. Deal with it.
Deal with it. I like that. So we got a couple other questions coming into the community, and I have some on my end as well. But okay, why don't we just get straight to the topic? Because I definitely want to make sure we have enough time to tackle that. $1 million in 90 days. For some people, that definitely sounds. I know that sounds crazy. They probably can't fathom that, how you can do that. So why don't we just get right into it and talk about that approach? How can one make $1 million in 90 days or less?
Well, what's funny is everybody's like, I had comments. People were like, "Oh, you can't compare yourself to Grant. He went in and he didn't use any of his connections and this and that." And I'm like, that's BS. And plus, Grant did not make 5 million in 90 days. He made 490 something, whatever it was. But anyway, you know, the reality is there's three things you need to run a business, right? And when you look at why people fail, it's they either lack the skills to reach their income goals, they lack the clarity in their brand and offer, or they lack the accountability, or they procrastinate, right? Like that, those are the three things. And so everybody's always like, oh, well, you know, that that sucks. It's like, oh, well, thanks so much. Like I have all these issues. How do I scale? It's like, it's actually easy. Just learn the skills you don't have, gain the clarity that you need to sell what you have, and put your accountability systems in place. It's super easy to do it. It's just doing it, right? And doing those things to make sure. So if you go to Elon Musk and you put him in the middle of nowhere and asked him to create a $1 million business in 90 days, he could do it. Why? Because he has the skills, he knows how to gain clarity, and he can hold himself accountable. That's it. So when you look at Grant Cardone, he was able to do what he was able to do because he has the skills, he has clarity, and he has accountability. That's it. Right. So the key thing is, if you want to build your business, you've got to gain those skills. You've got to have accountability things in place, and you've got to have clarity. And that's it. That's literally all it takes. And what's ironic is I had somebody that said, oh, well, you probably used your contacts. And actually, I didn't. Every single piece of business we brought in came from one contact that I had built during those 90 days. That's it. Right. And so the most important thing that you could do is understand. It's actually funny. So the two agencies that I built, the one that I built, and then the one that I built earlier, a lot of my business came from two mentors. And I did a lot of free work for them. And everybody's like, why are you doing free work? You do so well. Why are you giving away free work? And I said, because it will come back tenfold. Trust me. So I did a ton of free work for this person for like 45 days, maybe 2 months. I was like, I'm going to do free work. It's going to come forward. And I mean, we're almost at $5 million just from this one person now. Right. So it comes back. I look at relationships as a bank. You got to put your coins in the bank. And you do not ask unless you really need that loan, And so that's what's important. So how do you build a business, a $1 million $1 in 90 days? You've got to learn the skills that you need to do that. You've got to gain the clarity, and you've got to put accountability systems in place. And now, can everybody build a $1 million business in 90 days? No. But once you have those three things, you could do it on repeat. Again, you put any successful person that has built a business that have the skills, understands how to get clarity. They might not have clarity, but they understand how to get it, and they can hold themselves accountable. They're going to be able to, on repeat, build $1 million businesses.
That's again. So I want to bring it back a little bit. So one of the reasons why I even started following you and why I wanted to be tapped in is because when and I want you guys, I'm gonna put her on Instagram up. I want you guys to follow her. When you start going through her content, she makes everything sound so simple. And I think our mind sometimes just process the information. We think it's just really a big undertaking, and it's a lot. But a lot of the things that Dr. Dak talks about and how she explains it, she makes it sound so doable, easy to process, and easy to actually implement. And that's what attracted me to you, right? So when we talking about that clarity in your brand and in the clarity in brand and clarity in the offer, I think being able to also assimilate it in a way that people can receive it and they can actually take the action on it is a skill set within itself. And I think once people start being able to do that, you will start seeing higher percentages of transactions and conversions. Another thing I want to say is I think a lost art is the relationship nurturing, right? Because you can potentially develop the relationship, but the relationship nurturing is where a lot of people drop the ball, right? Or they may only ask the relationship when it's convenient, ask of the relationship when it's convenient for them. That relationship nurturing is huge, and a lot of people burn bridges or drop the ball because of that. What do you think about that?
Or they don't want to take the time. I mean, here's the reality: most entrepreneurs just want to do fulfillment, which means they just want it. They're they're technicians. They just want to do the job. If they're web designers, they just want to do the web design. They don't want to actually do the part, which is growing your business, right? Which is mindset, building a brand, building an offer, doing content creation to build trust. We're not in the world anymore where you can just ask somebody, hey, you want a website? And they're like, sure, no problem. Like, you have to build trust with that person. It takes a lot of time. I mean, some of my clients I nurture for months, right? And then leads, right? Nobody wants to do lead gen because it's a lot of work. And then sales, nobody wants to take the time to master sales. It's kind of like, I don't know if you played sports, Brendan, but you wear Nike. So I'm assuming, I was going to say you're wearing a Nike, so you're wearing the right brand. So I know that you probably played sports.
Yeah, I ran 2 marathons too, real quick. I just,
Yeah, I do not do that. You would outrun me real fast. But it's the same thing as an athlete, right? I'm sure. How many times did you rewatch your tapes over and over and over again to perfect your craft? It's the same thing with sales, but people don't want to do that. They don't want to take the time to listen to their sales calls, figure out, hey, what did I do wrong? What can I do better? It's literally the same thing as being an athlete. And that's probably why athletes, I actually wrote an article on LinkedIn that went viral years ago on why athletes make the best employees. And that was one of the points that I made. Like, they're relentless, they're willing to take feedback, and they will do whatever it takes to succeed. And that's all the skill sets that you need as an entrepreneur. Because everybody thinks, oh, entrepreneurship, oh, it's going to be so much easy, 4-hour work week, beautiful. No, that's not how it works.
It's definitely not how it works. So we got another question for you. This one's coming from Kiana. As a personal and business development coach and training, you have to balance. How do you balance your personal and business life?
I'm going to be honest. This might be very controversy, but I don't think there's balance in the beginning.
I say the same thing.
If you want to be an entrepreneur, it is 80 hours a week, all freaking day. Like, I mean, look, if you want to make 50,000, 80,000, you could probably get away working 40 hours, 30 hours a week. But if you really want to build a business, now there's times in my life, like when I had my last agency, towards the end, I was working, way, way less because I built a team. And I had, a COO that was making good money, multi six figures, who was running the shop, but that took years. I mean, that took 5-6 years to get to that point. Right now I'm back in the hustle again. I took a couple of years off, like I mentioned, to go get my PhD and to teach, and did the higher ed thing for a second. And then I was like, I had a 5-year non-compete. So I really couldn't do much in that 5 years until 2019. And once that non-compete was done, I was like, I'm back in, and so now I'm in the grind, and it's exhausting. My wife has to remind me, because she's an entrepreneur too. And she has to remind me sometimes. She goes, the beginning sucks, babe, but it gets better, I promise. I'm like, all right, thanks for the reminder. There is no work-life balance in the beginning if you really want to build a business. But as you grow, honestly, 5 to 6 figures is the worst. It's because it's like you're pretty much doing it all by yourself. Once you start hitting like 150 to $500,000, you can hire a number 2 and really start to delegate. And that's when it starts to become a little bit more fun, because you could start delegating the stuff you don't want to do. And once you hit 7, I would say, like once you hit like 2.5, I would say that's when you can really start to do the things that you want, and to start to, have a little bit more work-life balance. But I mean, it depends how you want to go. Like, if I want to just stay at 3 million, then we're just going to coast, right? But if we really want to hit, 50, 100, 200 million, we've got to grind, man. I mean, because it's all about relationships. That's what it is. And relationships takes time, and it takes time to nurture. So there's no work-life balance.
I agree with you.
But I love what I do. That's one other thing, just to add one more thing. Like, I love what I freaking do, where I don't care. Like, I love my life just as much as my work, because I love what I do. And I think everybody can love what they do, and enjoy it and make money doing it too.
So we got another question for the community. This one's coming from Levi. What would you say are the top 3 ways to generate sales?
Yeah, that's a great one. So it could be, this is loaded if it's service versus product. So I'll tackle both, because we do both. I own equity in like every industry product you can imagine. But to talk the service side, number one is relationships. There's so many great networking groups out there that you can get in, depending on what you're doing, depends on what networks. But when you think about networking, there's so many different ways to think about masterminds and conferences and things like that. Get out there. Like, we have an event in Vegas coming up June 3rd. It's almost sold out. And
Do I need
it's
to be
just
there,
going to,
Dr. Jack? Do I need to pull up? What we doing?
yeah, I want you to come. I want you to come. I'll put the link in the thing because
All right, there we
I
go.
want
Yeah,
you
drop,
there,
drop,
Brendan.
drop, drop the link. It's only a little drive from LA. I might have to pull up.
Yeah. I would love for you to come. I can't. I'm going to put it in the private. You can post it because I don't
Okay.
think I could put a comment. But it's that's a perfect example of, like, I'm hosting an event and bringing key people. I mean, it's going to be all 7-8 figure people there, and I'm putting them all in a room. And I'm not planning to make money on this event. What I'm planning to do is build relationships with key people that I want to build relationships with. So what am I doing? I'm bringing really great speakers, and I'm bringing really important people that are attracted to each other. So even if I'm not doing business with every single person in that room, I'm now an authority figure because I'm putting everybody in the room, right?
Yes.
So that's a key thing. The second thing is, service based is social media. I mean, we make hundreds of thousands of dollars a month off social media, and guess how much time I spend on it? Like an hour. I have built processes and team. I actually had this question this morning from one of my clients, who runs a multi 7-figure business, and we're trying to get him to 10 million. And he's at like 1.5 now, and he hasn't used social media at all. It's been all through relationships. And so he asked me, like, how do you have the time to make content? I said, do you want to know what I do? Like, I literally every week my team gives me 10 questions that people are asking. I put my phone like this and I literally respond to those questions, and that's it. And then the second thing is I leverage content like this, being on podcast and my YouTube channel and things like that. And that's all I do. It takes me 5 minutes to talk on for my YouTube channel because I just talk, what I know. Like, I don't have to do the research. So you don't have to take a lot of time to build content. You just have to make sure that you're answering the questions that people have, right? But honestly, social media is a huge, huge part, but it's also not just putting content out, it's building relationships, right? So we're constantly, it's kind of like, Brendan, my VA was talking to your VA, right? Like, at some point, and then we got to the point where we both were,
Yeah, they was like,
they were talking.
It was a VA war.
It was a VA war. And then eventually you and I both actually showed up on the call or on the chat, right? So, but because they identify, I remember my VA was like, hey, this Brendan guy, I think you want to talk to him yourself. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, and we both had that moment where our VAs were like,
let's get past that layer.
Get past the VA layer, but I mean, my VAs are going all day long. And if I screen shared with you and showed you my CRM system, like, it's insane. I can literally have a whole management database software dashboard where I could literally see everything that's happening on social, how many outreaches we've done, the conversations, how many are in queue. We literally, keeping it organized is so important. We tag people level 1 through 5. 1, we have no idea who they are. On the other side, level 5 is they booked a call, and we have levels in between. So I can pull up how many level 4s are we talking to right now that are wanting to book a call, that want to talk to us. And I can say, okay, we only have 7 people in the pipeline. We've got to increase our outreach, right? So it's all about processes and setting up accountability measures to do that. So I would say social media is absolutely the second one. Now, third is, I would say, advertising. But the thing is you have to wait until you have an offer that that sells. The biggest mistake entrepreneurs make is they'll go ahead and they'll do all this advertising. They'll blow, $5,000-$10,000 on an offer nobody wants. I always tell people, wait until you're making at least 6 figures on a single offer before you drop a penny on ads. We run an agency, 200 million a year we spend on paid ads for clients, and I don't do any paid ads. And I'm running a multi-million-dollar agencies, coaching and agencies and creative agencies and PR agencies, and I don't do any paid ads. And so you can build a multi-7-figure company without paid ads, but there also becomes the predictability of it, right? I have built an entire VA army of people. That takes a lot of work, right? Where some people just want that automation, that the predictability of ads. And so there's 2 ways to look at it, but that is another really great way. But make sure you have an offer that is already working.
So I want to ask your permission because we normally hold the conversation for 30 minutes. I know we got a couple more questions coming in. So I want to ask your permission if you wouldn't mind staying a little bit OT past the 30-minute mark.
Yeah, I have a coaching call, so let me just let her know I'm running late. Maybe she's
Yeah.
watching. I'll be right with you, Jen.
We do another 5 or 6 minutes. That's cool. We won't hold you too long.
Yeah, I know you're good.
All right, cool. So we got another question coming in, and I got a couple questions as well. This one's coming from Al. And guys, listen, if you have some questions you want to ask Dr. Dag, drop them in the chat. This is episode 49 of the Imperfect Action Show. We're talking about how to make $1 million in 90 days or less. And I know you guys are probably thinking about what you currently have and how you can do that. And it's something that I want to give you, and I want to hear Dr. Dag's perspective on it. But this one's from Al. So Al's asking, what's the best way to position yourself to show value while creating business opportunities within your personal network?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, PR is a great way, because at the end of the day, to me, building authority is really important. Sorry if you hear my daughter in the background. It's building authority takes time, but it also doesn't, right? So like I look at my authority when I sold my business in 2014, it was a totally different game. Authority wasn't necessarily really the thing. Personal branding wasn't really the thing. And then I come back in 2019, basically 2020. I'm like, what the hell is this personal brand thing? I'm like, come on. So I've only really built my personal brand over the last 2 years. And, look at my following, look at, in 2 years, I've built a really great following and a pretty good authority. And I've done that through content and PR. Like that's it. Telling my story. It's all about storytelling and being authentic and real and just saying how it is. I am not scared to tell people when I make all the mistakes I've made. I've made so many as an entrepreneur. So many. I can rattle off so many of them. I literally just actually on Monday, if you're not subscribed to my YouTube, go subscribe so you can get it on Monday. I'm literally launching a video on Monday. Then I'm talking about the top 10 mistakes I've ever made as an entrepreneur. I'm not scared to talk about it because that's what people want. They want to know the mistakes you've made. They want to know the do's and the don'ts. They don't want to, see you in your Lamborghini. Like those types of people, they're going to follow you, but they're not going to buy from you. They don't trust you, right? Yeah. Like, I don't care. I'm like sitting here in my Marvel t-shirt. I don't give a crap. You know what I mean? So it's like, people want to do business with people they know, like, and trust. How do you position yourself? Position yourself as somebody that they want to know, somebody that they would like, and somebody that they would trust. And not everyone's going to like you. I don't mean position yourself so everyone likes you. Position yourself of who you really are. I'm just myself. I'm not, you meet me in person, I'm the same way. Like I'm the same way on coaching calls. I'm the same way on these. Like I'm literally who I am, and you either like me or you don't. And that's okay.
I told you guys she makes it sound so simple. All right. So when you want to grow a business to $1 million in 90 days, one of the things that I think that you should do is make sure that you have an offer that's priced properly, right? So talk about that real quick, right? So if your offers are not priced properly, how could you even scale to that number? Because I feel like a lot of people that I've spoken to are potential clients and prospects. Their numbers are really, it seems like their numbers are not priced properly, like they're lower than what they should be. So let's talk about that real quick.
Well, it's also do the math, guys, right? Like if you think you're going to make $1 million off an ebook you're selling for $30, you need to sell 33,000 of them. If you only have a following of 2,000, just do the math, right? It's like if you want to make $1 million, back into it, right? So it's like, okay, if I'm going to charge, let's say 10,000, I need 100 people. That's probably more suitable. But at the same time, you have to make sure that you're giving the value because word travels fast, right? I mean, if my coaching program sucked, you would read about it, right? It's like people, they're more apt to share what sucks than what's good. It's harder to get people to write good stuff about you than the bad stuff, right? So at the end of the day, you have to be able to price something, but you don't want to undervalue yourself either. So just back into it and do the math. Like, so for the offer that we did $1 million in 90 days, and actually it was less than 90 days, we even built our coaching program. It was 4.5 months and we did $1 million in 90 days. That was a $12K price point where our agency, I mean, you're talking, our clients are paying anywhere between $60,000 and $150,000. So like we need basically 10 to 12 people to make $1 million. It's not that hard, right?
Yep.
So it all depends on who you're going after, right? So I'm working with a guy right now who wants to double, but he's charging $2,300 a month. And I'm like, you need a lot of people to get to, you need 50 people basically to, retainer clients to double. That's going to take forever. And so we talked about who his avatar was, and he's going after small businesses, which is fine, but they can afford more. I said, so what if you start going after more of that 8-figure brand that can pay $5, $10, $15, $20,000, and now you're quadrupling what you do. Right. So I get so many people are like, oh, can you do my social for $2,500? And I said, I have a referral for you. Like, I just don't take the business because it's not enough money for where we want to head and the value that we bring, because we know how to make money. Here's a rule of thumb. The bigger the problem you solve, the more money you can make. Right.
Yep.
People that are just going to do social media, but they're just going to create content for you, but they're not going to create an ROI. You're not going to be able to charge as much. I could charge 5, 10, 15,000 to just do so on social media because I'm getting the return tenfold. Right.
Yep.
And that's an important thing. So there's 3 things people will pay for you to fix their relationships or themselves, the relationship with themselves, to get them healthy fitness, and to make them money. Just stick in those 3 categories and you can charge high ticket.
Health, wealth, relationships. Okay. So someone's looking to transition from doing everything themselves, and they finally want to delegate. They have a budget. They want to get some hiring on. What are the 3 first and most important hires that someone's looking to bring people on should consider?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I do something what's called the Boss Audit. And basically, this is all it is. You every week write down all the tasks that you did in that week. Do that for a couple of weeks, and you'll start to see some trends of things that you're personally doing. What I want you to do next to them is put a check next to it or an X. A check is it produces revenue, and X is it doesn't produce revenue. And basically, everything you have an X on, you want to outsource. And when you take all of the X's and you compile them on a piece of paper, you're going to start to see who you need and what type of person you need. And as a CEO, you want to continue to make sure you have a lot of checks, because you're the one that's going to be generating the revenue. And I like to control that. I don't know about you, Brenda, but like for me, the control of the revenue is so important. I don't like trusting that with anyone else but myself, because anytime I put that faith in someone else, I end up screwing myself over. So I know that I'm going to produce revenue. So I make sure that my time is free to do exactly that.
And I think that also goes when you're delegating a high ROI task because you don't want to do it, but you don't really like to go back to what you said about sales. If you're someone that can actually sell well and you know you can close, but you just don't want to do it because for some reason you don't want to do it, and you delegate that to like a closer, but their percentage isn't as high as you, that's at least something you should be watching before you transition, or at least monitor what they're doing and go through a couple of different salespeople before you pass that on, because that's a skill, like you said, like you're going to be monitoring the amount of money that you're bringing in because you know that you can actually close. So like that's where your time probably should be.
Yeah, I mean, if you're just around 6 figures, you could do a lot with VAs. I would not go hire a salaried person. I would stick with VAs. I think, again, doing that boss audit, everybody's going to be different. Every business is different. Everybody's skills are different. For me, one of my first hires was a salesperson. And it was because my strength is driving leads and building relationships. So for me, putting the sales off my calendar freed me up to just drive them with leads, and they're better at sales anyway, so everybody's different. That's kind of a loaded question, but the boss audit would help you start to sort out exactly what you need.
Awesome. Well, Dr. Alexa, I want to say thank you for taking the time. I'm glad we were able to do this. Please let everyone know where they can find you, what you currently have going on. I know you mentioned you have the event coming up, so let's talk about that real quick. And let them know where they can find you, what you have going on, and a little bit about the event.
Yeah. So you can find me on Instagram, Dr. Alexa D'Agostino. I post a lot of content there. You can also in my Instagram, you can get the link where I have all my other channels and whatnot, LinkedIn, YouTube, etc. And then this event in Vegas is called the Revenue Accelerator. We're going to teach you how to multiply your revenue and create a more profitable you. We have incredible speakers. It's a very intimate event. We purposely priced it pretty inexpensive. Most of the time, these events are in the thousands, and we wanted to not charge that because we want people to get value out of it. We have a lot of 7 and 8 figure entrepreneurs coming. So I'm really excited. It's going to be a really, really good event. And I'm excited. So we actually are almost sold out. There's only a few tickets left. So if you're interested, reach out to me on Instagram. Or go to events.thinktankcoaching.com. And I think it's also in the comments as well.
What we're going to do also, if you're watching this live, as soon as this is over on YouTube, you can go to the caption. You'll see Dr. Dag's Instagram, and then I'll put the link below so you can tap into that and get into the conference and all of that. Yeah, follow her. She knows what she's talking about. She breaks things down really simple so you can easily digest it. And again, this has been an Imperfect Action Show. Episode 49 with Dr. Dag. I would love to have you on again in the future.
So fun. Yeah, let's do it.
We'll make that happen. All right, guys. We'll see you tomorrow, episode 50. Crazy. We're almost there. We're halfway there to 100 episodes.
I'm in awe of you, Brendan. I mean, we just launched our podcast. It's called Think Tank Millionaire Podcast. And I mean, we're on episode like 12. And I'm like, whew, I'm exhausted. So 50, good for you. I got to have you on ours too.
I would love that. I have 2. So honestly, I'll give you guys a quick little story of how this Imperfect Action even started. So I had a challenge to do 183 days straight of Instagram Live. So I was doing it. It was rolling. I think it was at like day 20. Everything was cool. I started to post some of my social proof testimonials from some of my clients in the story. Well, one of the algorithm caught a word or how a client said a particular word, and they flagged it as like just something that shouldn't be posted. And then I immediately posted it again because I was like, this doesn't even make sense. Like nothing she said in here is a word that should be flagged. And then they shut down my live. So I couldn't go live. So I was like, no, there's no way I'm not going live. So I started the show, Imperfect Action. Literally the first 3 episodes had no title. And then I just took that action. And here we are sitting at episode, about to be episode 50. And this is not even like my primary podcast. Like the one that I really like doing is like an in-person sit down with the cameras and the lights. I could touch you. We can have these laughs. I could tell you a story. But this one is really great because like you give the tactical principles, values, the lessons. It's in and out. There's Q&A. So I want to, again, giving a lot of value, packing it so people have something. And then we're just rolling. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Awesome. So thanks for having me. You're amazing. This was so fun.
Spicy.
I love your energy.
Spicy 8-figure talk. 90 days or less, make $1 million. Let's go. Everybody raise your prices after you watch this conversation. Dr. Dan, I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye.